Hello, you're at Kinetic Intelligence. I'm Mikhail Dementiev. We've got an urgent report from the Sochi Mountains. You see, I'm out here in field conditions. There's a roaring river. I'm hopeful that she will not bother us excessively so that we can savor this exquisite dish of nonverbal ballet together during the interview, which was recently conducted by Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin with journalist Tucker Carlson. Let us analyze and comprehend it fully. Just allow me to make a quick disclaimer right away. Kindly avoid making political statements in the comments section. We're discussing body language, poses, gestures, movement, facial expressions, and how they impact your interlocutor in negotiations. We are currently examining two gentlemen. Is that acceptable? All right, let us begin the process. In the initial frame, we witness Tucker raising his eyebrows ever so slightly for the first time. He's getting ready to ask his first question. He's an open book. But we also see them holding back a little with their lips. Looks like he's going to be very careful with his words. And here, look, he synchronizes with Vladimir Vladimirovich. His so-called epileptoid psychotype kicks in, a part of him that is all about structure, systematization, and concretization. You see, even a furrow appears between the eyebrows, and in this aspect, they are very similar to Vladimir Vladimirovich. He is also an epileptoid psychotype.
Mr. President, thanks a lot. February 2nd, 2020, what is it?
It will not matter so much what they will be flapping their gums about. What will be much more important is what will be happening, what their body will be saying. You observe, right in this moment, he instantly acquires this sort of wandering gaze. Therefore, he lacks a direct connection to Vladimir Vladimirovich. Eyes are moving quickly from side to side. That is not a great way to start an interview, and for someone who is so sleepy. And what do we observe in this particular instance? We witness fear and a state of nervous breakdown. Fear. You see, the lower jaw moves back. The lower eyelids are slightly squeezed, indicating signs of fear or anxiety. There are even these spasmodic manifestations happening in the region of the throat. You see, he hasn't really tuned into the conversation yet. And here, the breath is catching. Check out how this looks.
February 4th, when the conflict started in Ukraine.
In the 22nd year, you said that. But overall, his gestures are comfortable. There are no attacks. There is no such thing as, all right, let's get to the bottom of this. The entire globe desires to know all of this. There is nothing quite like it. Well, given that we are discussing psychotypes and Stacker's epileptoid component, I would also like to mention that one of Vladimir Vladimirovich's predominant psychotypes is also epileptoid. These individuals are known for their ability to systematize and structure everything, and we can observe their expressions of this trait through the primary emotion of anger. You observe the occurrence of the micro-weapons on the face and how it leads to the appearance of the frown line. And overall, what is the point of this? It's very important to determine the person's psychotype that we're analyzing, so that we don't mistake their basic emotion for a specific anger. You know what I mean? Not always, when we read with Vladimir Vladimirovich, there is an angry feeling. But he's not always truly angry, despite the initial perception. What did he do to make his space more comfortable and conducive to relaxation? Without wasting a moment, he promptly takes off his watch, meticulously adjusts it by delicately stroking his wrist, and exercises restraint by holding back a little.
What is your opinion on America potentially delivering a surprise blow to Russia? How did you reach that conclusion?
Evidently, he was anticipating this inquiry, so he is going to remain composed and adhere firmly to his stance while posing an exceptional question.
Are we going to host a talk show, or are we going to engage in a serious conversation?
Now, pay attention. We have a talk show here. Is he serious, or is it a serious conversation? A serious conversation and a talk show have kind of switched places in terms of their level of seriousness. He sets up a cool fork, giving him the opportunity to continue his storyline throughout the conversation and establish a strong narrative presence. Definitely live inclusion at Tucker. He is here and rocking his body and playing with his voice. Vladimir is here, taking him to his side and under his control during the conversation. From what I gather, he is already assuming control of the Greek to a certain degree. Here, when he inquires about your education, from what I gather, it is of historical significance. And here they also add such a squint to enhance the impression. You observe that squint? So he is simply stating, You possess a historical education, as far as my understanding goes. So it's like informing the person right away that we have some knowledge about you, Mr. Tucker, and we are well versed in certain areas of expertise. And then what?
Well, just give me a quick 30 seconds or 1 minute historical background.
A whole bunch. Today I am going to show you a ton of examples of visual gesture support. So like Vladimir Vladimirovich, he's all about using gestures to like spice up his speeches, you know? It's really interesting and trustful to watch people whose gestures, or rather body language, correspond to the language of the words spoken by their parents. There will be a ton of examples of these. You see, when he says that little historical background, I'll give it to you, he's showing that it's really small. But this brief historical background for 30 seconds, for 1 minute, ended up being practically for 30 minutes. And it turned out to be extremely important for those individuals who are not familiar with the context of these confrontations between two countries, which you can probably guess, so that they understood the historical significance behind it. It is truly fascinating how Vladimir Vladimirovich utilizes Kivcom for the purpose of priming. Take a look.
You cool with that?
You do not mind, do you? He nods in agreement at first and then proceeds to ask a question.
I am okay with it. It's not a problem.
Please. How does this occur? Priming is when we employ specific behavior or understanding strategies to shape our interaction with the other person. Here he says, nods first, then holds back, neutral, and gets confirmation. Please, you can burn everything further. I have gathered a substantial number of examples for you from the entire interview with visualization support. Let us take a look, but let's start gradually and proceed at a steady pace.
To be attracted to another magnet, to that center that was established in Europe, the Polish people actively adopted Polish culture and, in general, treated this part of Russian lands quite harshly, if I may say so, cruelly. The proponents of Ukrainian independence emerged. The proponents, who...
There are people who work with papers. While I had the opportunity to travel extensively by car across the United States of America,
they released this genie from the bottle. Ultimately, regarding the act of opening this door that Russia was attempting to pass through. All right? We comprehend that there will not be any discussion. There was this one company that was manufacturing components for the final assembly process in both Russia and Ukraine, and vice versa. Just the political leadership of the United States compelled us to reach the point of no return, with no possibility of turning back. Gradually, over time, the wounds will heal. Little by little, gradually, when they straightforwardly said, honestly to the entire world, that yes, they had signed this Minsk agreement, but had never intended to fulfill it.
However, they never had any intention of doing it. Furthermore, he concludes by moving his head in a forward direction, keeping his eyes wide open. Isn't it interesting to observe this, huh? That is so awesome.
After withdrawing our troops from Kiev, our Ukrainian negotiators promptly discarded all the agreements we had reached during the negotiations in Istanbul, deeming them irrelevant and no longer binding. Can we truly say that we have completely eradicated this ideology?
You see, they even uprooted it. Shows how some trees or ideology are twisted.
And Poland is falling into the hands of the Germans. You said that the world is divided into two hemispheres. The head is divided into two hemispheres. One hemisphere is responsible for a specific area of activity, while the other hemisphere is more inclined towards creativity and so on. But that is still only one individual. We require the entire world to be united in order for security to be shared.
Watch, they're about to do the concentration gestures. So like when you're talking about something broad, like in general, and you need to like focus someone's attention on something specific, check out how this works.
However, this remains the primary tool for maintaining the influence of the United States of America on a global scale.
This place is so interesting. I'm digging it. This is the main weapon. And then when he talks about preserving the power of the USA in the world, he just throws it away. Look.
Maintaining the influence of the United States of America globally,
Disposed of? I mean, you could gradually decrease or highlight the preservation of the United States' power in the world under disposed of such small seeds. He drips.
It is dripping, but what does it have to do with impacting the US economy and undermining the power and influence of the United States in the global arena?
In the world, they diminish the power of the United States globally. Here he comprehends that in an ironic manner. He expresses it with a slight restrained smile regarding the extent of cooperation with China. Observe how he visualizes the robust extent of cooperation with China.
The tools that the United States of America is using are expanding, but they do not function. However, you must consider what actions to take.
Once again, these brilliant tools require you to carefully consider your actions and strive to do something truly remarkable. They have the ability to add color and visualize speech through gestures, creating a truly awe-inspiring sight when observing people from various perspectives.
At the levels, you see, and then the first person of the state will act in anticipation of what the voters expect from him. And on the people who make decisions at different levels, and this is inevitable, it will happen further. Like the sun rises, it is impossible to interfere. We are together, we are one big family, but we are together, united as one.
This is one enormous and mesmerizing picture. That is absolutely true.
Oh yes, those Polish people have been doing it for decades.
They were involved in the process of pollinization of this segment of the population, discussing pollinization and other topics. Tucker has become completely absorbed in this environment. He pays close attention to Vladimir Vladimirovich, using all his senses, except for the background noise, which is transmitted through a separate audio channel. It is fascinating to observe how he manages to do it.
After that, we have not received any communication from the president of Ukraine so far.
In what way does he demonstrate the signing of the documents individually?
The president of Ukraine has issued a decree that effectively prohibits the use of S.
We are in the process of negotiating regarding a decree that forbids us from engaging in negotiations with ourselves. Observe, there is both anger and disgust. Occasionally, these emotions dissipate rapidly. However, we can ascertain from the manner in which the facial muscles operate on the face of Vladimir Vladimirovich that he certainly does not approve of the fact that the Ukrainian side has issued a decree that prohibits negotiations with us. Additionally, here is an excellent illustration. He telephones Peskov's secretary and gestures to him using very subtle finger motions. Observe in order for you to comprehend.
Did not think I came up with something truly clever.
Light finger movements, you could beckon like this, but it is not classy. They looked at dim. However, when we talk about light finger movements, we understand that a person's verticality is more important than a beckoning gesture. And if we look at how they use their fingers, we can see that the precision and delicacy of their touch convey grace and elegance that cannot be achieved through a simple beckon. Tucker Carlson reacts with concern to this situation. His apprehension is apparent as he scans his surroundings, meticulously chooses his questions, and contemplates the potential consequences. At this moment, Peskov presents a folder to Vladimir Vladimirovich. Personally, I harbor doubts regarding the validity of this claim.
What are you fabricating something? No.
Dang, these are merely a few darn copies originating from the darn archive.
Documentation from the archive, including copies. Take a look at how cool it is to work with documents in the so-called blue power vector right here. He bestows weight upon them, granting them significance. They are heavy, they carry importance, and they hold great significance in the eyes of others. Here, of course, in my breakdown, I utilize a plethora of terms from Kinetic Intelligence. My book, Kinetic Intelligence, is going to be released in the near future. I will leave a link to it in the description. Please check it out. There is a whole lot of information specifically about how to analyze the movements of other people and use it to your advantage. There will be a link to the book in the description, so please stay tuned and don't miss it. So, there is simply no way for me to inform you all the details here. There is simply so much happening there. And observe the actions of Vladimir Vladimirovich in this situation. He delicately takes up the space of the person he is speaking with by placing the folder on the table without distracting them, but effectively asserting his dominance over their territory. It is important to note the trajectory of his movement, which is not rigid, but rather soft and curved, even to the extent of sacrificing his own glass. He adjusts his glass without touching the glass of the other person, demonstrating a brilliant chess-like maneuver. As a result, the other person is left with only a quarter of the table instead of half, along with the document.
I will leave them for you as a good memory. There is a translation into Russian. Well, please translate it and then translate it into English. There were and Takaru.
I have to physically compress myself onto a small portion of the table, while Vladimir Vladimirovich demonstrates his dominance. There is no available space to place all of these questions, so I must place them on top of my eyeglasses. It feels like a form of oppression, but in a very subtle and gentle manner. It is as if the document is being given utmost importance, so he delicately positions it diagonally on a section of the table. However, I still have to physically compress myself, while Vladimir utilizes expansive gestures and occupies a significant amount of space. He sits comfortably and occasionally rearranges items on his designated area of the table. It is simply a matter of sharing the space, adapting to the circumstances, and accepting the constraints imposed upon me. And it is all very bright, vibrant, and expressive.
All the pressure elements, pressure, pressure, pressure. Then Ukraine's entry into NATO, that's just pressure. Why? Then come here, right into this office.
He will oversee the space now, by the way. Pretty cool, huh? So he proved that Tucker is still a guest here after all. I am the person in charge here. I am responsible for running the show. And it clearly indicates that important events also occurred in this space. And this is Vladimir Vladimirovich's space.
Where are we presently chatting now?
The Secretary of Defense Gates, former CIA director, and Secretary of State Rice arrived. Here, to this spot, and behind the table.
So, directly across the street, you're driving a chair. They sat on this side. I am the Minister of Foreign Affairs minister.
The defense of Russia, on the other hand, was visualized by this guy sitting there, this important person. Everything was happening here, and for me, it was a matter of great importance to join Vladimir Vladimirovich's space. He had flexible fingers, but a firm wrist. And yet, he spoke softly enough. In other words, these were diverse signals that needed to be countered.
Russia was not willing to accept them. It is really beautiful.
I didn't agree immediately to accept their fingers right away, because these fingers are elastic and the wrist is straight, and I think it's really cool.
About Ukrainian independence tone, they discussed its need for a strong relationship with Russia, emphasizing clarity.
You see, the tone in this situation is extremely soft, friendly, and the level of eye contact is exactly the same. In contrast to the appearance of the ticker, you see, his gaze is constantly darting back and forth. Vladimir Vladimirovich is extremely observant, yet he remains friendly. He refrains from roasting individuals during conversations. There will be outbursts, I'll inform you.
Almost done with historical briefing. Currently dull, but provides a lot of explanation.
It's not boring. In those moments when Vladimir Vladimirovich thought that Tucker was falling asleep after a half-hour excursion into history, he says that the briefing is boring, but it's necessary, believe me. Such a homemade test. Tucker says, no, it's not boring, she's not dull. And Vladimir Vladimirovich receives carte blanche to keep telling all of this. However, when he expresses gratitude to Tucker for being willing to keep listening to him, he does so in a joking manner.
Check it out. Well, great.
I'm glad you appreciated it. Your appreciation means a lot to me. Thank you so much. Wow, thanks a lot. He actively avoids making eye contact and simply says thanks in a half-hearted manner. This is also one way to make your interlocutor feel slightly uncomfortable. Listen, I'm telling you thank you right now, and I'm saying thank you, for listening. This is really very significant and fascinating. Is there a distinction, huh? Kindly write in the comments. Vladimir Vladimirovich has soothing moments with adapters when he strokes the chair, creating a sense of tension and relaxation simultaneously. That's totally fine. And the adaptation of the space allows Vladimir Vladimirovich to return to the resource. He occasionally relocates an item to this location on the table, and subsequently, as you observe, he assumes a significantly more comfortable and strategic posture with great satisfaction. Tucker is frequently very strict and focused during those moments when his gaze does not wander away or get distracted by anything else around him.
And that is what made you take action, correct? I empathize with you.
He leans forward, as if with his sharp nose and frowning face, demanding specific details. Vladimir always brings him back to the agreements and insists on repetition of the key points that were previously discussed and agreed upon in order to ensure clarity and avoid any misunderstandings.
So that's why I asked you in the first place. We're going to have a serious talk show here. You're getting all serious and stuff, so don't get offended, okay?
Please do not get offended by me. I kindly request. Tucker frequently expresses this reaction through a smile and laughter, and overall it appears to be quite friendly. I urge you to take a closer look at the reaction if you may.
Save the whole thing. Here I am approaching a very important moment of today, because this collapse of the Soviet Union, it happened.
Initiated when Vladimir Vladimirovich finally answers the question, or rather, even tries to approach it, and the attacker already hears it and says thank you. Vladimir Vladimirovich, as he heard, like, yeah, please, please, yes, now you will receive an answer to your question. And he performs it very frequently here. Obviously, there is a distinction in the categories that Taker operates with, and he himself, look now, according to the information he has gathered.
Let us not discuss who is afraid of whom. Let us not use such categories for reasoning, because
the fears of China's lack of fear, it's like some kind of cheesy reasoning, isn't it? It's not on the level of high-class politics. And here was a funny moment when he mentioned Yeltsin, the former Russian president.
Well, let's examine the Yeltsin era at this very moment. It is here now.
About the Yeltsin era, pay attention to how he includes his fingers. Never inside this, at least in this interview, he didn't gesture with his fingers so much. He didn't include them as much, probably because it's characteristic of him, a partial bodily transformation. Remember, Yeltsin was constantly saying something with his fingers, showing something, and here there was just an interesting transformation that I decided to show you. And a two-step, maybe even a blue vector. Any vector can have several stages of its development. The blue vector reminds of power and such control. There can even be a little suppression of its expertise. Look at these two stages, really.
Some things need to be changed because the balance of power has shifted for real, but not in that way.
But nonetheless, not in this manner. Initially with the left hand moving forward and downward along the blue vector. And subsequently, but nonetheless, it already encompasses the right hand, it is positioned higher, its magnitude is larger, and the vocal sound even intensifies. Compare these two performances.
However, despite this, it still falls short.
Did you witness that? Tucker frequently interrupts Vladimir Vladimirovich, trying seemingly to gain control of this interview, but unfortunately, he has no such luck. Nonetheless, Vladimir Vladimirovich permits himself to interrupt. In only one episode, he ultimately retracted his statement. Observe the way it unfolds.
Doesn't let me complete, not even once.
It just comes out rudely.
Based on my perspective, I believe that... No, there is no, okay, all right then. Let us proceed with it. Let us take action and get it done. Just will not allow me to finish. It simply comes out rudely, you know.
Why?
What is the deal with this? I feel like you are feeling bitter about this. I comprehend it. But why do you think the West has pushed you away in such a manner like that? Where did this come from?
In general, in terms of bitterness and emotions, Tucker attempted multiple times to elicit emotions from Vladimir Vladimirovich, but he focused on the incorrect ones. And observe how adeptly he manages this situation.
Why couldn't we improve our relationship? What were the motives behind this from your point of view?
You mentioned that you feel bitter about the response. However, it's not bitterness, just stating the fact without any emotional attachment or bias. We're not a groom and a bride. Bitterness, resentment, those ain't the substances that come into play in such situations. We just realize they don't expect us there, that's all. All right, okay.
Brings back to professional categories in a very skillful and beautiful manner. No hard feelings, no offense, and so forth. And when he talks about flexibility, there are some really cool, versatile brushes. So you see, brushes can be extremely soft or a little bit stiffer. They are completely different. So like humans possess like an incredibly extensive range of gestures, you know? This enables them to effectively convey exactly what they truly want to convey. And he is exceptionally adept at shifting blame onto the entire American community, specifically targeting this journalist who represents the American nation in front of him with great precision and effectiveness. Take a look. From being a person who simply answers questions, he specifically tells him something straight up. And observe how it affects him, check it out, and see for yourself.
What is this thing?
What's this?
This is an absolutely astonishing coup. And the armed opposition in Kiev executed a coup d'etat. that completely overturned the government and seized power. What is your understanding of this?
You know, it's like he's asking him directly. How do you understand this? Come on, answer, Mr. Carlson, for them, for everyone.
Who the heck are you all anyway? I would like to inquire about the leadership of the US at that time. With CIA's help, of course, an organization that, as I understand it, you once wanted to work for. I am grateful they did not take you. Thank God for that.
Amazing preparation, just applauding at level 88. Such a fatherly position, very soft disposition. Perhaps it is advantageous that you aspired to join the CIA, but they did not accept you. Perhaps it is advantageous, Mr. Carlson. Fantastic. And check this out, a cool example. Putin points out, but doesn't name the culprits, that in 2022, it was an attempt to end the war. He's very cleverly, verbally bypassing the instructions of specific culprits, spreading this gesture. He responds to particular inquiries relying on factual information.
The war was commenced in the year 2014. Our ultimate goal is to put an end to this ongoing war and achieve lasting peace.
And we haven't even started. In 2022, this is an attempt to stop it. This is an attempt to halt her. There is no extravagant gesticulation present, no excessive movement occurring. There is a sense of clarity and stability in effectively expressing one's position with accuracy and confidence. Excellent at steering the logic of conversations.
Take a look, the President of France, President. You'll definitely be pleased with that. It's worth checking out, trust me on this.
Which territories do you already possess?
Tucker is making an effort to cut him off. I mean, he is simply interrupting his speech. Let's finish with a completely distracted question. You asked a question about neo-Nazism, and it returns through the use of gestures from the blue vector group, forward and downward, returning it to the fact that I will now answer your question after all. And it's really great, even playfully, how Vladimir Vladimirovich manages the logic of the conversation when Tucker asks him when you spoke with Biden.
Look, when was your most recent chat?
With Joe Biden, well, I cannot recall the last time I spoke to him. I do not remember. You can verify that information.
Don't recollect?
No, why should I recall everything, huh? I have lots of my own tasks.
That's a slight put down. Oh, please, who do you think you are, Biden, that you must recall everyone? Do you really expect me to remember everyone? I've got plenty of my own things to do. And he is really excellent at utilizing even these types of phrases in English once more to regain control, to confirm once again that I am the one leading the conversation.
It is more valuable for us. We are capable of managing it.
Right now, we can just communicate through gestures. It's really cool to have this one-on-one interaction without the need for a translator. Vladimir here is changing the rhythm and tone of his body and voice. You should see it. But there's a catch.
To come to an agreement about something, you gotta have a dialogue.
Do not you need to have a conversation? Do not you feel these steps, this increase in trust and communication, as if he turns his ear in that manner?
To converse or not to converse, that is the query that needs to be addressed.
Let us engage in a conversation, shall we? Let us proceed with the dialogue, maintaining a light-hearted and humorous tone throughout, as you are well aware.
It is amusing how in a kindergarten there is meant to be an assurance. But what sort of kindergarten is it, and who are these individuals? Evidently, they pushed the disagree button and arranged a third round, despite the fact that it was not scheduled at the conclusion of the event.
They accomplished it by using mockery and silly gestures as if there was nothing serious. He also demonstrated his great versatility and charisma in a calm and impressive manner, which had a significant impact on people in the Nord Stream cloud. And then, unexpectedly, someone detonated Nord Stream.
Who caused the explosion of the Nord Stream?
You are present.
Once more, a transfer. You're specific, so proceed and reply.
I was busy all day.
I was busy that day.
It's normal here, people manage to get by one way or another. I was busy that day, but overall he adapts. And then, through his clothes, it's clear that he's uncomfortable. That's the kind of connection he has to the country, which is most likely involved in all this mess. And Vladimir Dima has such sharp intonations and gestures, when it's necessary, when it's true. Look at how it is.
Big trouble for everyone and a signal for everything.
Global enormous alarm and signal for the entire world. And following that, another pause. Absolutely brilliant. Check it out.
This is an enormous alarm and a signal of utmost importance for the entire world to take heed of.
Brilliantly internationally simple. There is a considerable amount of blame being shifted around for whatever happened with the hacker of our Carlsons, you know.
Right now, 34% of our payments are made in rubles. We settle in rubles. Roughly the same, approximately around 34% in yuan. Why on earth did the United States make that decision? I can only provide an explanation in an arrogant manner.
Why do you bother? He kept on talking and talking incessantly. Why, though? Could you please inform me, Mr. Carlson? I am curious to know. Why, though?
What do you mean there is not enough Chinese business presence in the United States of America? Yes, the political decisions are structured in such a manner that the authorities are actively endeavoring to curtail and restrict cooperation and engagement with China. Mr. Tucker, to his own disadvantage. You are engaging in this behavior to your own disadvantage.
Again, he keeps on talking and talking, and then Mr. Tucker, he ends up shooting himself in the foot. Are you able to sense the way in which he is changing, the way in which he is leaning towards him? And Mr. Tackett emphasizes with a great deal of emphasis that you are doing yourself harm by engaging in this behavior.
But do you understand what the heck is going on or not?
Do you grasp the situation or not? It's akin to attending a meeting with your own colleagues.
Does anyone get this in the good old United States? What are you up to?
What are you doing?
You're cutting off your own nose, which is something that all experts always say. If you ask any smart and thoughtful person in the United States what the dollar means to the USA, you will find that you are killing it yourself and causing harm to the economy.
Here is Tucker's entirely predictable reaction. After such a multitude of allegorical but highly specific accusations, what else is there to say except what can be said in response to such a situation like this, given the circumstances?
The dollar itself is causing immense harm to us and our economy.
In my view, I believe that is a relatively fair assessment. Let's proceed to the next question.
Just a quick inquiry, but the rating is genuinely fair. There is nothing to oppose with, particularly considering he was knocked down by these constant reschedulings. Of course, from a strategic point of view, Vladimir Vladimirovich is just a badass, especially here, where he uses concentration gestures and very skillful zoning. Look at this.
It appears that our product has been inundated with goods from China, and these items hold great significance for us. They are properly balanced and serve as a complement to one another in the high-tech and energy industries, as well as in the field of scientific research.
Balanced, well-balanced, very balanced. Everything is gesturally zoned. Everything is in its place. Very beautiful. It's all worth watching. And once again, in one gestural row, he puts here, look, and sanctions, and pressure, and bombings, and even more, showcasing the remarkable balance of it all.
The military, just like the United States, adapts by employing sanctions, pressure, bombings, and the use of military force as part of their strategy for adaptation and response to changing circumstances.
Sanctions, pressure, bombardments. You see, gesture-wise, these are some really harsh, rough gestures that smack someone like a mosquito. In this location, as he skillfully exhibits his contempt for the methods employed by the United States, he proudly displays his impressive capability to compress data and information.
This is in connection with cockiness.
The people who are present in this particular place, their voices even tremble as if they are clenching up tightly into a little ball, visualizing it in a vivid manner. You know exactly what I mean by that.
Is it even possible that people don't understand your political vibe, whether it's about peace or the fact that the world is changing due to objective circumstances?
Precise gesticulation is vital for making the correct decisions, you know.
Maintain your level, even if someone desires a level of domination. Tucker is incredibly active and highly engaged in his pursuits.
Everyone listens to his interviews here. You can really get lost in them and get mesmerized, and Vladimir sometimes winks at him with one eye or the other.
To overpower two of them separately and utilize their combined potential in the battle against China would be a grave mistake that should unequivocally be avoided at all costs.
The error lies in the fact that he winks with only one eye in this manner, sometimes even winking, which is a mistake.
In Russia, it will be like everything that took place after the year 2014 is considered to be the primary source of power.
Gospel war, and in this gospel war, believe me, they were beating with views. The commencement of Tucker's question formulations becomes more and more perplexing, so he genuinely loves to interrupt and constantly interrupts without hesitation or restraint.
I need to ask, what is the deal with those express seats? The only way to go about it.
The manner in which our minds operate is somewhat distinct from the norm.
And naturally, we require this. He continues to inquire his question, despite the fact that Vladimir Vladimirovich has not completed yet. The idea proposed by him is truly significant. He is making a sincere effort to regain some sort of positive image of governance that has been lost.
But, so you believe that there is some supernatural force involved in this situation?
So, allow me to reiterate once again. He expresses, I will state it once more, Tucker takes and interrupts him during the conversation. Unskilled, unattractive, lacking elegance.
You are stating that he was working, the government of the United States.
Essentially, it is under the control of the United States authorities, regardless of their location within the confines of a prison.
Yet another wink, he says, I am fully aware of all this. I know about you and I know about them. Nothing escapes my notice. And one more wink. I not only perceive, but I also possess knowledge of their desires and what they want. We have knowledge of every single thing that exists in the world.
Or to be more precise, I should say, they desire to. We simply do not have knowledge. I am aware of what they desire. I not only perceive it, but I am aware of what they desire.
Executing a wink by closing and opening both eyes simultaneously.
Oh, have faith in me. Oh, have faith in me, I assure you.
And about getting together, look how beautiful. We're not closed for negotiations. In fact, these negotiations are happening.
There were numerous occasions during which we entered into an agreement. We are still able to work out the details at this moment. We just have to make a deal.
Did you hear how he lowered the tone of his voice, the volume? We are still able to figure out the details at this moment. Simply have to make a deal, similar to whispering in your ear. There is a small restrained smile present in this location. The smile is visible, but then the person still tightens their lips in order to convey a sense of seriousness and specificity in this message.
We produced a compact, substantial document in Istanbul, which was approved by the head of the Ukrainian delegation, signifying their endorsement and validation of its contents and conclusions. There's a signature.
He has got a signature. Here we go again with the sound effect, an additional channel of impact, like he really signed up for it. However, he ultimately refused to carry out the task. The reaction of the individuals who harbor animosity towards him can be witnessed at this particular place. She's not much of a talker. Vladimir Vladimirovich is just a bottomless treasure chest with a saying. He observes Taker, finds it funny. Tucker's foot is in the process of heading towards the exit, finally allowing his foot to point in the direction of the exit for the first time during the 2-hour interview. His feet were standing like this the whole time. Look at Lenin Aldametrov's reaction to Tucker's laughter. It's priceless.
It would be funny if it wasn't so sad.
It would be comical if it were not so tragic, as appropriate as it was articulated, and a brilliant ending in this context. The intonation is such that it consistently lands, calms down, and slows down the pace of speech and gestures. Please pay attention to how he will conclude this interview, as it holds significance in shaping the overall impression.
Everyone believes that in the Western region, the ongoing conflict permanently separated one segment of the Russian population from another.
Nope, absolutely not.
The reunion is definitely going to happen. It ain't going nowhere. Why are the Ukrainian authorities tearing apart the Russian Orthodox Church, causing such division and controversy? Because it brings together not only a territory, but also the essence of a soul. No individual will possess the capability to divide it. No individual will possess.
Will be able to divide her. She landed after making changes in her position and managed to maintain her balance. This location truly showcases your chest to the maximum extent.
Completed.
Let us conclude our time here with a subtle hint of being asked to leave. It is now the appropriate moment for you, dear, to depart from this hospitable house, and the presence of your feet here also symbolizes your desire to finally go away. Both of these elements are not to be disregarded. In this place, there is a very friendly nod and a half-whisper from Tucker, who is restraining himself. His presence and actions in this moment serve as a reminder of the warmth and kindness that have been extended to you during your stay in this welcoming environment. Listen to the manner in which he speaks.
You can't add anything to it.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. There is absolutely nothing. It is not possible to do it.
So, what is your opinion on this nonverbal ballet? Let's have a discussion in the comments. What do you think about the interaction between these two individuals? If you enjoyed my analysis, kindly inform me by liking, subscribing, commenting, or any other means available. I love chatting with you. I was with you on the Kinetic Intelligence project, and I'm Mikhail Dementiev. Bye for now.